So, I want to talk about men and women and how we can reconcile the war and the battle that is happening in our culture between men and women. Men and women are at war with one another, and it's at a point where women are resentful of men and men are resentful of women. And we're just fighting one another and we're not coming to any form of resolution. And I think it's so important to listen to the issues and provide some real solution and provide insight into what is really going on, what is beyond that surface level disagreement. The complaint of women is men taking advantage of women and men having more privilege in the world. If I can sum it up into what the real issue is, I believe that women are resentful of men because they've sacrificed their lives, their bodies, their energy, and they've given so much of themselves to men that they're now at a point of frustration, resentment, and hatred. They resent men for the fact that they've lost out. And in the world of dating, women do lose out. Women are not benefiting from the system of dating. When we look at the red pill men, the problem they seem to be bringing up is that there isn't an equal playing field, that women can now is now asking for complete equality, where either they want women to be treated exactly like men or women should reverse, and there should be those traditional roles. And from my understanding, the issue lies in men and women resenting one another for their own inability to control themselves. Men are not able to control their desires, and women are not able to control their emotions when they're in love. And it leads to women sacrificing to a point of self-annihilation. Like they've given so much of themselves that they resent the sacrifice that they've made. And this was a problem this before the feminist movement came into play. And what feminism was claiming previously was that women are trapped in marriage. And the reason why they're trapped in marriage is because they are sacrificing more. They are compromising more. They're giving their freedom, their career, their success to serve men. And the diagnosis of the problem was that women need to be free of marriage. So let's create the concept of dating where women are free from marriage and from commitment, but that didn't really solve the problem, because now women are still complaining of the same problem. But now the problem is worse because now women don't have commitment, women don't have the protection of marriage. They're giving men the same privileges they would give to men in marriage, but they don't get the commitment. They don't get the security of commitment. They don't get the security of providership. They don't get the security of loyalty. And the problem was the same. The women that were married and that gave their all to men, women are still doing that, but now without marriage. So they're in relationships for years without getting commitment. They're still sacrificing themselves. And so the problem continues. And women haven't really made progress in that area. They have the freedom now. They don't need to be committed to men, but yet their nature to nurture, their nature to take care, their nature to sacrifice is still there. So now they're doing it just without marriage. And so women have a really bad end of the deal because men are still benefiting from women sexually. They're able to meet their needs, but women haven't been able to meet their needs in the dating world. If we can get to the root problem, to the root issue, whether it was women who were married or women who were dating or women who were single, the problem is the same. The problem is that women are sacrificing themselves to a point of losing their freedom and free will, to a point of losing their independence. So women are independent, but when they get into relationships, that independence disappears. So in terms of a solution, I think that what women should work towards, whether they're married, whether they're single and dating, is their ability to not sacrifice themselves for men. That is something that we're not taught to do. As part of the independent women, we're not taught that when you're in a relationship, not to give yourself, not to be dependent on him. And that isn't to say you're not asking them for anything. And that is not about financial independence. It is about emotional independence. Women struggle with emotional independence, and men struggle with their sexual desires. And so the problem, what I observe, is that men resent women for the fact that men can lose themselves and lose their discipline for a woman. Their desire for sex makes them so weak that they resent women. And a similar thing is happening for women, where women are so weak in relationships, they are so emotionally weak that when they get in relationships, they just sacrifice themselves and give too much of themselves to men. And then they end up resenting men. Women need to develop this understanding that when you're in a relationship, your emotions will lead you to sacrificing yourself. That is the root issue, and that is something that we need to talk about, we need to have conversations around, because this is still a problem. The problem is that when women are dating, when women get into relationships, they're not able to control their emotions, and they end up giving way too much of themselves and becoming glued to their partner, to a point that they lose their independence. They lose their ability to think independently, to live independently, to do things independently of their partner. And that is something that we always need to preserve and maintain our independence. That is something that we shouldn't sacrifice or give up.